The 2005 Volvo V50. If you're in the market for a used Volvo wagon or SUV, you probably won't come across too many V50s. They're out there, but there seems to be far more XC70s and XC90s to choose from. You may also recognize the resemblance to the S40, and by that I mean the cars appear to be identical up until the rear end, where the V50 has a hatch with more cargo space and extended taillights. While the exterior of this wagon is simple, its appearance has aged well. In my opinion, if you look at this 2009 Acura MDX and 2018 Subaru Outback, the V50's age doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. When you hop into the car, you're presented with a very simple interior. For 2005, I suppose this was meant to look futuristic. All of the radio and climate controls are integrated into this waterfall center console. You'll notice how different the interior of this car looks compared to the XC70 and XC90s from the same year. Volvo must have thought that with the introduction of a successor to the V40, it would be a good time to try out a new interior style. The interior of these cars stays mostly the same throughout the entire generation, with the exception of some small changes to the cup holders and door compartments. You can find this car with the 2.4i badge, which indicates a 2.4-liter naturally aspirated 5-cylinder with front-wheel drive, the T5 badge, which has a turbocharged inline 5-cylinder and front-wheel drive, or you'll find a wagon with both badges like ours, indicating the turbocharged inline 5 with all-wheel drive. The 5-cylinder sounds really nice and is actually quite loud during quick acceleration. These cars are also available with a manual transmission for both the front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive models, with or without the turbocharged motor, but they are very hard to find. We've owned this car for about 3.5 years, from around 134,000 miles to where it sits now at about 153,000. During our ownership, we have made some repairs that you could expect to make if you buy a V50 with similar miles. So first, we bought this car for $500 from the previous owner, who was convinced that the motor was blown. The car would start and run for a few seconds before coughing to a stall, so we ended up installing a new fuel pump control module, which cost just under $600, but got the car to run great. Luckily, she had a brand new transmission installed 10,000 miles before we bought the car from her, so we shouldn't have to worry about that again. However, this means the original transmission failed at just over 120,000 miles. This car came from Colorado, so it could have been exposed to harsher than normal driving conditions in the winter, but definitely be sure to get a good feel for how the transmission is shifting if you test drive one. Right after we got it running, we installed a timing belt kit. The previous owner wasn't sure about when it was last replaced, and we didn't want to take any risks. Next, around 140,000 miles, the car had very sluggish acceleration. The turbo was not working properly, and we replaced the boost solenoid control valve to get it running properly again. This was only a $25 part that was very easy to replace. Maybe 5,000 miles later, we replaced all 5 coils after some rough starts in cold weather. Be sure to look at the coolant hoses and their clamps. A few months ago, a clamp snapped and all of the coolant dumped out while I was driving the car. Luckily, I was almost back at home, because these cars will not tell you when the motor is starting to overheat. We installed a new metal clamp and the car is running fine. There have been other normal wear and tear items that we've replaced, like a wheel bearing, a starter motor, and headlight bulbs, but any car will need those over time. So probably the most inconvenient issue this car has had is with the sunroof drains. It's a pretty common issue from what I found online, but the sunroof drains that run behind these pillars disconnect after some time. They're just these like plastic drain tubes. We've had 4 or 5 different instances with water leaking into the car because the drains that lead from the sunroof behind the pillars and are designed to dump excess water under the car have shrunk or expanded and disconnected from each other. This can be incredibly frustrating when your windows keep fogging up or in the winter icing over on the inside of the car. If you purchase a Volvo from this era that has a sunroof, it is wise to have the sunroof refitted with aftermarket drains. Each time a drain has disconnected, we created a new connector out of PVC that should hopefully do the job. And if you can find one of these that doesn't have a sunroof, you should see this as an advantage because you'll avoid the headache altogether. Anyway, this car's had its fair share of issues, but overall, I wouldn't hesitate to buy another one. Ours definitely has a ton of life left in it and is an extremely comfortable ride. I've done tons of highway driving with our V50, and it's a very competent road trip vehicle. You can expect to average between 18 and 20 miles per gallon driving a T5 all-wheel drive V50, and I've heard the gas mileage improves greatly in the front-wheel drive models. So if you're considering buying a V50, I definitely wouldn't be the guy to hold you back. If you can find one that has been well maintained, especially by someone who maybe would consider themselves a Volvo enthusiast, it's a great car that I'm sure will serve you very well. If you learned anything from this video that helped make your decision to buy or avoid buying a V50, it would be much appreciated if you liked this video and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below to let me know what you'd like to see in the future with this car, and don't forget to check out the other videos on this channel with our V50. Thanks for watching.